Hello everyone, I am a second year student at the University of Warwick and I am studying chemistry on the BSc stream. Today I have the pleasure of talking to you about what it's like to study chemistry at Warwick. So I have my laptop here, so let's get started by me telling you what I'm going to talk to you about today. So just a little bit of a disclaimer, the things I talk about there are all my personal experiences of uni. I know for the first years their course has pretty much been the same as my course has been so far, but if you do come, which I hope you do, to study chemistry at the University of Warwick, don't be worried if the course is slightly different, as things do change from year to year. So first of all, I'll talk about the structure of the course. So these are the 4 different ways that you'll learn. Secondly, the module options available to you. Thirdly, how you're assessed. So for us, that's exams and coursework. And as I talk, I'll tell you how the ways that uni differs from studying chemistry at school. And then finally, I'll give you my top 5 tips from transitioning from school to studying chemistry at uni. So let's start with the structure of the chemistry course. So there are 4 different types of ways that you'll learn. So these are lectures, labs, tutorials and workshops. So let's start with lectures. So lectures are what you'd expect. I'm sure they're pretty much the same at every uni. So this is basically the closest to your classroom teaching, if you'd like. So you'll go into a room, a lecturer will basically talk to you for an hour. I know in chemistry we normally get given handouts. So these handouts you'll either fill in some extra notes or you have to write down quite a lot depending on the lecturer. But again, it's up to you. So here is the first way this kind of differs from school. The way you take notes and the way you learn is very independent. You will be guided in the way that they kind of want you to write notes. So some of my lecturers, they'll have little bits that flash up on the screen and they'll ask you to write them down. But again, it's up to you whether you write them. You can write on your laptop if you'd rather. It's completely up to you. Secondly, something that's quite different for chemistry is obviously that we have labs. So what labs are you basically go in and you're putting your theory into practice. So in my first year and also my second year, I had 1 day of labs in term 1 and then 2 days of labs in term 2. So what I mean by a day of labs is, so you'll go in at 10:30 in the morning and then the latest time that you'll finish is 4. Sometimes you get out a bit earlier if you finish quickly. And then you'll basically do a day experiment. So what these are, you'll be given a protocol and then you'll work through it with a demonstrator that'll help you out and explain any questions you have. And you'll be able to see in practice, as I said, the different things that you've learned. I'll be honest, in first year I did find labs quite stressful, but I think this was because it was a new thing. I hadn't really done any proper labs before. So I'd done experiments at school, but they're quite different. They weren't like full-on days. Whereas as I moved into second year, I was a lot more confident, I knew what I was doing, and I really started to enjoy them. And I think once you're more relaxed in labs, you can really get the most out of it. Thirdly, you have tutorials. So what tutorials are, they're small group teaching. So this is probably a group of about 6 people and you'll all sit together, you'll have done some questions before the tutorial, bring them in, and basically you'll discuss with the lecturer your different answers. Fourth, we have workshops, and I like to think of workshops as a massive tutorial. So rather than being in a small group of 6, it's the entire year in one room. But normally instead of doing the questions before, a lecturer might ask you to look at them beforehand. But rather than doing them before, you'll now have, you'll go through them during the workshop instead. So a typical week for me is a mixture of those 4. So for lectures, so in my first year, I normally had about 10 hours of lectures a week. Which doesn't sound like a lot. However, when you then add in your lab days, so they were around 5.5 hours, let's say 5 hours. So if you had 2 of them in a week, that's 10 as well, which will bring you up to a total of 20 a week. And this is like sometimes every other week you'll have a tutorial as well, and you also might have some workshops every now and again. They normally come either in the middle or towards the end of learning some content, so they're not regular every week or regular every other week. But again, I'll put up my timetable, an example you can see from my second year, and you'll be able to see how it's kind of laid out. So next, let's talk about some module options. So I'll put up on the screen the modules that I took in my first year. All the modules I took in first year were core modules, so this means they're compulsory. But I actually quite like this, as it meant I didn't have to make any decisions at the start of uni. And it's also given me time to really figure out what parts of chemistry I really enjoy. So for me, I'm also prefer the physical and inorganic chemistry side over the organic, and that means that I can now choose the modules that I think I'll really enjoy in year 3. Also, it means that you're getting everyone on the same page. So I know I was quite worried coming from school that I'd have forgotten a lot of things from A-level, that I'd be really worried that everyone was going to be smarter than me. But when we got there, it was really nice because it meant that because everyone was doing the same modules, everyone was on the same page and everyone was getting the same foundation of knowledge that you'll use throughout your uni career. And then also, it was nice to be doing the same modules as all my friends as well, as when it came to revision time, you can all really help each other out and like teach each other little bits. So I had my lab module. This is all coursework based, so labs I count as coursework. In my other 3 modules, I had 100% exam. In my second year, this has changed slightly. I have 6 modules and a lab module, but in the 6 modules, they're 20% coursework based and 80% exam. So it won't always be 100% exam throughout the entirety of uni, and it will differ from year to year, but that's quite nice because it means it can cater to different learning styles. So in my first year, there are a few different pieces of coursework I had to do, I believe all for the lab module. So the first being pre-labs. So what these are the little quizzes that I did before going into the lab. Basically, they make sure you know what you're doing, they make sure you're safe. But also I quite like these, as individually they didn't really count for a lot, but then together it was like this nice little chunk of marks, basically to give you a little boost and to know that you were doing okay. Also, we had to do lab reports. I believe in my year I did 4 reports. So 2-part reports, these were like short little ones, and then 2 full reports. And I think this was a really nice way to do it as well, as it meant that you didn't have to go in head first. You'd have some nice little workshops which would teach you how to write them. And it basically, with the different bits of feedback you get, by the end, my last report was so much better than I'd started with. And then finally, in my first year, I did these computational workshops, but now I think you will do Python instead, so you'll start coding. So I started learning coding in my second year, and I'll be honest, I did find it quite difficult. I found it quite tricky. I hadn't really done any computing at a higher level at A-level, so for me it was quite hard. But I think speaking to some of the first years, easing them in your first year, the coding is really useful, and also it'll be something really good to put on your CV as well. So the ways that uni are kind of different from school. So as I said, it's very much more independent learning with chemistry. You'll get taught a lot of the stuff, but then it's all down to you how much extra work you put in. So even though what I've talked about with the contact hours, they just seem like there'd be quite a lot, you will have lots of spare time to go and do social events, meet friends, join lots of societies. So for example, with me, I did 3 extra music societies in my first year, and I turned out fine, so you'll have plenty of time to do what you want to do as well. But also within that time, they do expect you to do some extra work, to do a little bit of revision, and then obviously you'll have those coursework to do as well. Also, something that's different from school, I talked about the lectures. Lectures are a bit different in the way that it's very much independent learning. But for me, the biggest thing from school was very much managing my time. So even though you do have a lot of time, there's so much going on and there's so much I wanted to do. And with no one to tell you when or where to do it, that's the thing for me that took the longest to get into. But again, you'll be absolutely fine. As long as you manage your time, you'll get through the course and all will be well. So on that note, I'll go through my top 5 tips for transitioning from school into doing chemistry at university. So number 1, my first tip is to give yourself time to settle in. As I said, there'll be a lot going on. You'll have a lot academically and then a lot socially. So give yourself time to figure out what you enjoy, what you want to do, and also give yourself time to settle in and know that you deserve to be at uni. If you've gotten into uni, especially Warwick, you will deserve to be there. I know I personally felt when I went to uni, everyone was so smart and I was so worried, and obviously everyone is really smart, but it took me a little bit of time to know that yes, I did deserve to be there, as I did get the grades, and it did take me a little bit of time to settle in. Secondly, don't be afraid to ask for help. I think quite a lot of people get worried that lecturers are going to be annoyed at them or shout at them, but this is not the case at all. Lecturers would much rather you came to them at the beginning of the year or after a lecture and asked them a quick question than coming at the end of the year and telling them you haven't understood anything. So number 3, try to keep on top of the workload. So with the amount of coursework and lectures, so chemistry itself does have a bit more time than other subjects due to having labs. But this doesn't mean, so this means you'll probably get the same amount of coursework, however, due to your labs, it'll, seem like quite a lot more. So try to manage your work as much as possible, keep on top of your notes, as if you keep chugging along, then it doesn't really get on top of you as much. However, I do say that, but number 4, don't be too hard on yourself. If you do need a break, take a break. You will get a lot more work done if you've maybe had a cup of tea with a friend for an hour and then come back to your work. Don't force yourself to be working constantly. And then number 5, get involved and make new friends. As I said, there's so many societies to get involved in. You'll meet some wonderful people on your course and wonderful people in societies and in your halls that just try and take every opportunity you can. So obviously enjoy the academic side, but try and also enjoy the social side as well. So thank you very much. That's all from me today, and I hope this helped. There should be a chat surrounding this video, so please feel free to ask me any questions you have at all, and I hope you have a lovely day. Thank you.